guys, welcome. Thanks for joining us on our next panel, Making a Story Flow. We're actually still waiting on a few people to join us. Mike is making a lot of noise over in the other room. Hopefully you don't hear that. The guests we do have so far that are going to be on. So first we've got Ted Sikora with us, owner of Heroes Tomorrow Studios, creator of Apama, Tap Dance Killer, and his latest title, Punchline, which is live on Kickstarter now and funded, I believe, within 24 hours. Did I leave anything out, Ted?
That's perfect. Thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, we've also got Mr. Victor Dandridge with us, hardest working man in comics, owner, creator, writer of Vantage In-House Productions, the mastermind behind You Create Comics, and I like to call him the architect of the FSK universe.
Thank you. That was everything, man.
Everything. All right. And then we got Robert Jeffrey with us right now. EIC for Black Sci-Fi, writer and creator of the comic Route 3, and also a member of the DC Comics New Talent Showcase in 2018. Robert, did I leave anything out for you, sir?
No, actually that was perfect. Thanks for having me on.
All right, no problem. All right, so we are also waiting on, let's see, we're waiting on a few other people, but right now we got Daniel Calvin with us, writer for American Dreams, published under Alignment Studios, part of Short Fuse Media Group. Welcome, Daniel. Anything else that I leave out there?
Not yet, but there's some things in the being done, but no idea now.
All right, so we will have LaShawn Colvin join us. So once she joins in, we'll give her the rundown and intro. And I believe we're still waiting. Greg, we got Greg backstage. Let me get Greg in here as well. There we go. So we got Greg Burnham joining us, writer of the acclaimed Tuskegee Airs, and he's also on his final day of his Kickstarter for Sadiqa, or the search for Sadiqa. Greg, anything else that you want to throw in there?
Yeah. Nah, that's good, I think.
All right, sounds good. We'll go ahead and get started. So this is the panel for Making a Story Flow. So I think the first thing we start with is what's your approach for taking an idea and turning that into a story? And we'll start with you.
Who you start with? I didn't catch that.
We're going to start with Ted.
Oh, I didn't hear that either. How do we start with an idea to, from inception?
Yeah.
I think for me, I have a ton of ideas. Anytime I have an idea of any kind, I make sure I write it down. So I've got an app that I can just keep my ideas in, or if, it's next to my bed, there'll be something to write with. But it's just compiling ideas, lines of dialogue, anything that I hear that's kind of a clever turn of a phrase that I don't think I've heard, before. I just try to keep that kind of stuff handy. So then when it is time to flesh out an idea, there's usually a lot there to mine through. And it's like, at what point do you feel like you have a really solid idea that's really worth, putting it into a comic, and that's just, for me, one of those ideas just starts to pull at me. And I feel like this is the story I have to tell right now. And it's the right time for it. And there's just too many ideas bursting. So, it's just compiling ideas in that interim stage.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go left to right on my screen here. So Daniel, same question to you, sir.
I pretty much do a lot like what Ted does. I usually open up a Google Doc of a master list. I also have shorter idea segments to expand on ideas, or just if I don't want to open up a master list, I just start a new document for the new idea. Like the other day, I thought of what if I did a Marx Brothers inspired comic? And so I started up a small little sheet for that, and so on and so forth. Okay. And then if I want to go more full bore into that idea, I'll start doing more notes. For example, for one project I've been slowly working on, I have 10 or more pages of notes on that one alone.
Okay.
Those are random little ideas.
Okay. So, Greg, over to you.
Similar to what Ted said, I have a bajillion ideas in my head, and I'm always coming up with new ones. One of the things I'll do is I'll stop. If I really like it, I'll stop what I'm doing. And like Daniel said, Google Doc is my new, go-to for pretty much everything. So I'll just create an outline, drop the characters in, and then usually I let stuff sit for a couple of days or sometimes a week, because I'm my worst critic, I think. So I've come back so many times and been like, yeah, that idea is crap. I don't want to do anything with it. Or maybe even it's not anything that I'm passionate, like I'm, really passionate about. So I'd be like, yeah, that could be something one day if I'm selling ideas to somebody. But the stuff that I really drive and work on, it's like I'll let it sit for like a week or two and then come back. And if I'm still excited about it at that point, then I'll, jump on into it. I think that was me.
Okay. All right. Robert, how about you?
So, I'm pretty much piggybacking off of what everybody else has said. One of the things though that I've been using a lot, which is kind of weird, is an app on my phone called I was just had to look at my phone to make sure. It's called Quick Memo. So it's just a notepad, a basic notepad, and for some reason I just keep going back and just adding more notes and adding more notes. I definitely do utilize Google Documents, but also I ordered like a 5 pack of notepads, from Amazon for like very cheap, and because of the client work or the personal projects, I kind of delegated one book to each project. So whenever I have an idea or notes that I want to get out there, I have one specific place that I can put those notes in. Because what I was finding was I kept going to like CVS or Walgreens and picking up just steno notebooks and putting all the same ideas in the same book, and that was driving me crazy. So I had to kind of delegate separate projects into separate books, and it's worked out so far. It doesn't seem as much of a cluttered mess as it was before. So
Yeah, I personally noticed that sometimes I feel like it's easier for me to put pencil to paper and actually take notes by hand versus trying to do it digitally. I'm still trying to adjust to that myself and move to more of a digital, because I lose my notes. I can't figure out which notebook it was in or something like that. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So Victor, obviously we go way, way, way back, and
Right.
seen tons of your handwritten notes over the years and story ideas that I'm still waiting to see come to the light of day. But what's your current process? Your process in the past?
So yes, I definitely feel attacked by that statement, as well as Robert's. No, the funny thing is that most of my storytelling process was developed in a really weird way. Like we used to do family trips when I was a kid, so I would have to run a lot of ideas in my head and just kind of keep them there, and that's kind of something that's carried over. So I don't, even if I have an idea, I kind of put it in the back of my head, and if I remember it, then it's a worthy idea. If I don't remember it, then I don't care. It's a story loss because it wasn't interesting enough for me to hold on to. So then I figure like nobody would really care. So I'm sure I've probably lost a ton of stories that way. But at the same time, I'm like, they were trash because I didn't remember them. At this point, though, what I do is, I've got literally, like, this is why I feel attacked, Robert. I'm looking at a stack of notes, random sheets of paper that have a bunch of different story ideas in there that I've had over the years. And, what will happen is I'll have that concept, want to, see where it goes, and I'll noodle some notes down, put some things together like that. And then if, I get that urge to write that thing, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's beautiful. Like, notepads are sexy to me. Like, that's writer porn to me. But yeah, if I get an inspiration for an idea, I will run with it. And like everybody else, I'm moving into digital writing. So on my phone, I use the iPhone Notes, and I also use Google Docs to write everything. So even when we're on the go, we're still creating. Absolutely.
All right. So moving on to the next question, which Daniel, I'm going to save you for last. Hopefully, LaShawn will be here with us for this one. But the question is, do you work with an editor? And I'd like to know why or why not. And if you do use an editor, what's that impact been to your creative process? So we'll start in reverse order. So Victor, we'll go with you first.
Ironically, no, not officially do I work with an editor. What I work with are some hard-nosed fellow creators that will tell me if something is crap. They will absolutely do so. My three brothers, Danny, of course, is one of them. But actually, the hardest person that I try to impress with my writing is my lady, Adriana. She is not a comic book fan at all. So when I give her something, she is the rawest when it comes to breaking down whether or not she liked it, whether or not it made sense, because this is not a medium that she automatically has any affinity for. So I am able to really get, as long as we can understand what we're going for and saying, I get some hardcore great critiques from her in that regard.
All right. Robert, over to you.
So once again, piggybacking off of Victor, it seems like first and foremost, my editor is my wife. So she is, and it's for the same reason. She's not a huge comic book head. She's more into anime, but I kind of gauge her reaction to see if things are flowing. But since I started doing comics back in '06 or '07, I've always had an editor. So for me, even if I'm working on a project where it's something I'm doing personally, I have people like always, give shout outs John Robert McGuire and Greg Anderson Elisi, and they are kind of go to people to check out my work, to because for me it's I have to have like a second or third pair of eyes, on my work because otherwise it might come out like a hot mess or whatever, or not maybe not a hot mess, but I just want to make sure that I'm getting the best work out there. And if you're just doing that with your eyes only, I think you're doing a disservice to the story. So,
Okay, good point. Greg, how about you?
For the most part, I am the editor. I yell at myself a lot, but I do. So with Tuskegee Airs, I do it with Marcus Williams, and we are kind of like checking each other as we go. The other stuff, the search for Sadaka and other stuff that I'm working on, I just fine tooth comb like everything, like even before I start writing it to make sure continuity and make sure, the story is flowing well. That's a segue into the panel we're on right now. But I do have a couple of mean ladies that are really, really smart, that are friends of mine that I'll actually run, like final scripts by. Sometimes, mostly final, because I know there's a lot of people, and I tell people this all the time, like if you're going to certain people that are editing and they're putting their emotion into it, then, they can end up, like altering what you really were trying to get done with your story. Sometimes we know what we want to do, right? We know we want it to be said this way instead of that way. Mm-hmm. We know that we want to, create, maybe make the reader a little bit mad right here. So later on the reader, there's a payoff for it. So you got to be careful. If you have like a really real professional editor that's just objective, that's really cool. But I haven't found one of those yet, so we just kind of battle it out ourselves.
Yeah, Greg, I'll say that's being the editor for the FSK books, I definitely say that's finding that balance of being objective and not having a better idea of how to do something, but just trying to edit the story that's been presented. And to one of the points you made, Victor, I know that you and Mike going way back with first story arc on Hot Shot. You guys coming to odds over. You wanted to tell something with Carla in Hot Shot specifically, and you guys were at odds over that.
No. That's being polite. We weren't at odds. We were literally about to fight about it.
Sure.
We were literally. Danny had to come between us.
Yeah. Yeah. I was there and got between, so it's no joke.
But I was right though. Okay. Carla is a B word. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so same question to you, Ted. What are your thoughts?
Well, my background was film, and I spent a lot of time actually. It's a different kind of editing, but editing, and I do a lot of documentary work. And often you're getting an hour's worth of material, and you're boiling it down to like the best 3 minutes. So that's kind of just ingrained in me. So I don't really work with a traditional editor, but I do feel like some of my background has helped me with that. However, I was introduced by Henri Compin to Jim Salicrup at New York Comic Con. I met him on a Saturday, gave him a copy of our Apama book. And the next day, Sunday, he came down and sat with me for an hour. Now, Jim Salicrup, he worked under Stan Lee for years and years. And he gave me the Marvel critique. And it was the best, to this day, the best hour of education I've ever had in my life. So what he'll do now for me is he will check out my stuff. When I have a book ready to go, he looks at it and he'll shoot me some notes. And it is the most wonderful thing. Now, there's about 5 to 8 people that I will show a book before it's done. to get their take on it. And they're coming from very diverse places. I'm not trying to just find fans of our stuff. I really, when I hand somebody something to read, I say, look, hammer me. You aren't going to hurt my feelings. I would much rather, get scolded or whatever right now than to put it out there and have a big mistake in it or something. The other person I have to call out is my daughter. She's 13, but she's a very gifted writer. And she'll give me a whole different point of view. And in fact, the book we're doing right now, I struggled with the title. I was going to call it Punchline. I was going to call it The Vaudevillains. Punchline, The Vaudevillain. And she's like, but it's about all these characters in the team. So now it's Punchline and The Vaudevillains. And that was her title. So, it's just, I think shout out Jada. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I think having the people around you, the creatives or people that you can rely on and trust their word, not to tell you what you want to hear in the sense that they love it blindly, but giving you that harsh feedback. I know for us, it went from, me stepping into the editor role for FSK and then our lead colorist, Ms. Veronica Smith, sitting here right here next to me, eventually saying, you know what, you're our associate editor. Like, we trust your word so much in what we're doing, and it's critical to our success. So absolutely, I think that seems to be a consistent thing that for which each of you is having someone that you can trust and rely on, that they're going to tell you brutal honesty to help make your product the best it can be. So Daniel, I know LaShawn's not on with us, and I know that you can speak to what it's like having LaShawn as your editor. And I believe you had the first issue of American Dreams. I think you had actually written without LaShawn. So what's it been like working with that?
Actually, I wrote the first 3.5 without LaShawn. I think I had 4 mostly done, and we were in the process of drawing it. And she would be taking my script, and she'd be like, "No, fix this." I'd be handing those notes over to my artist.
Okay.
This is like already in the middle of the process, and so when we were coloring it, because it was being colored, she was sending me notes because I would miss things, just in my utter glee of getting the page in. She's like, "Daniel, you have to tell your colorist this, and this." And then when we were doing the whole chat and draw, when we were doing the Kickstarter for issue 3, I already had planned out a whole new arc 2 in my head, like what I wanted to do, and I actually wrote out a further 6 more arcs I wanted to do. And then she said something in the talk saying, "Oh, you like to see more diversity from Daniel's cast." So I'm like, okay, arc 2 original idea, you're getting the back seat because I want to do it because she's right. I need to add more diversity, even though it's another time period. It needs to reflect how diverse New York was then as it is now. So it was arc 2, it's not going to be arc 3, and this new arc 2 is going to be coming in. So so she's definitely making me the best I can be.
That's awesome. Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue. So to the next question. So, with Vigilance number 2, we actually had a complete book when I stepped in. I ran through the letters and I stepped in as the editor. And, I sat down with Mike and we had a conversation like, this can be better than what we have right now. So what has been your experience? Have you ever had a finished product or close to finished product where you've had to go through and make changes based on the feedback you've been given, whether it's from an editor or those that you trust for that feedback? Now, Ted, I know that you've said that the same thing as Victor. You like to letter your own books, so that gives you the chance to kind of edit on the fly. But overall, what's been your experience in having to make changes throughout that creative process?
Fortunately, there hasn't been big, we got to redo the whole second half of the book kind of thing. But yeah, I tell everybody, and not to put any letterers out of work, but if you're a writer doing your own lettering, what happens in my process is I'll get a rough layout from the artist, but I immediately drop that into Illustrator and I put my first draft of the letters on that. And then we realize where we have space, where things have to move. Next time I get the pencils, it drops right in that same file and the letters are already still there from my previous pass. And now I'm like, oh, I don't like what this character's saying. I'm going to fix that. Or, then the inks come, then the colors come. Every time I see it with the letters, and every time it probably gets changed and it gets better and better. I don't feel like I'm a person who can just whoop out a perfect script. Like, that's not my process. And I sometimes even feel weird calling myself a writer because on the one hand, I can't do that. On the other hand, I do so much more than just a writer because I'm involved with the layouts and all this other stuff. So it's kind of, it's a weird process that, I've kind of, it sounds like Victor's doing something very similar. And this, I think we all have blind spots, and the more chances and the more time we can put between our iterations, the better.
Absolutely. Daniel, you mentioned, being, I think, on the third issue of American Dreams and started getting feedback from LaShawn and definitely having to go back and make adjustments. So it sounds like you've had some of that. What's been your experience?
Well, I know that with the first issue of American Dreams, one of the big feedbacks I got for that was it's too talky. Like, it's too much dialogue, it's covering up the artwork. So I know for issue 2, I personally went through the script for a lettering script. I was like cutting to the page. So I don't know, this could fit here, but I have to take out this and just rewrite. This will make the same idea, more compact.
Right.
And then I know that, and I've had to do a couple adjustments, I think, for 3 and now for 4. And I know for 5, me and LaShawn are really going to be going together to look at the script as we go through it for lettering, as, when it gets past the coloring stage.
Great. All right. So Greg, same question to you.
So, I haven't had that issue as much with my books. Right now, I'm editing and assisting on writing for my brother's book that we're working on. And so we keep having issues with artists. And so we kind of scrapped it and we're going back from the beginning. We're having Marcus do the rough pencils. And so they showed me the book, a week ago. And I was like, okay, this is cool, but I mean, we could, kind of like what you said, we can make this way more dope than it is right now, just by switching up, switching how we tell the story, like how the pacing goes in the book. You only have a certain amount of pages, and I always try to get people to, whether you're a writer or an artist, to, when you're planning this out, to think like a reader, right? To think to engage someone, but don't give them everything in one spot, kind of string it out and keep it suspenseful. So I was I'm trying to get my brother, because my brother is my younger brother, and he's really excited to be working on this. And I'm trying to tell him, I'm not trying to change your idea at all. I don't want to change anything about the idea. So if I ever get to a point where I'm crossing that line or stepping on that line, feel free to tell me to shut up. And, when you're going to, you got the final say. I'm just going to offer you. And so when I sat down with them, they heard what I had to say, and they were like, oh, yeah. And so now the story flows better. And that's what I, try to do. I haven't had that issue because, it takes some time to get these books done. So it's you can kind of change things on the fly. That last bit, for the last issue of Tuskegee Airs, I was able to sit, with Marcus while, Marcus did the lettering, but I was able to sit there with him. So we're, kind of like Ted said, you're switching little things right there at the end. But yeah, I guess that's my experience overall. And I don't want to talk forever. So.
It's funny you say that. I know Mike and I, we've sat down and had late night editing sessions where we've got the book in front of us, the pages. We're going through and we're making, we've got letter pages. We're making changes on the fly right there. You know what? Let's reword this. With him writing Hotshot, that gives us that flexibility to do that. But we've done that with all of the titles, making sure that whether we're the writer or the artist on that, we want to make sure we're putting together and putting out the best product possible. Robert, over to you. Same question.
Oh, sorry about that. So I can use an example of a book that's it should be out this month, called The Crossing. So Sean Hill is a co-creator on that book, and he's the artist. And one of the things that we noticed is when we started to get some of the pages back, that they weren't aligning with the script as far as the dialogue. And Sean Hill, if you don't know him, I'll just go ahead and say he's one of the best comic book artists in the game right now. So with him being co-creator on the book, it was really cool to see him take the script and put his interpretation on, what the pages should look like or brought to life. So what we've had to do is kind of adjust the lettering. And Loris Ravina, who's the letterer on Mind to Avenge, has been able to do that like perfectly. So one of the things that I love about the creative process is that everybody can come together and not be full of themselves. As long as the end result is that you're telling the best story possible, then that we get something that's beautiful. So I know there are probably folks who would have looked at the pages and would have been like, grumble, 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 go back to what it was before. But I look at those pages and I'm like, Sean, just keep doing what you're doing. So, and I trust in him and that's another part of this process that I think a lot of people, come to realize is that, Sean is going back as far as Route 3. And a lot of the success of that book is because of him. So, so I trust in my creative brother from another mother, to add, to change things up enough. But we'll just go back and just work it, with the lettering later on. So, but that's been a good experience.
All right, sounds
So
good. So we've got LaShawn is with us. So LaShawn, I'm gonna go ahead and add you in, and then we'll let you answer the very first, come up first for the next question. But I'm gonna add you into the stream now. And Victor, we're gonna bring over to you. Last person, I saw you grab your copy of The Trouble or Never Too Late.
Yeah, buddy.
But I'll let you go ahead and share your perspective.
So, Never Too Late, number one, the sequel to The Trouble with Love was done. Like, when I say done, we're talking like drawn, colored, lettered, the whole nine. And my pal Jim O'Hara, who has a background at Miller World, he read it and was like, nah, I'm not feeling it. And you talk about a gut-sinking feeling because you're ready to send this off to print, and you've got somebody that's like, nah, I'm not, the flow, it's not there. So I literally printed out the entire book because per his recommendation, I could nix out 4 different pages, start over on a couple of things, and obviously from an independent creator standpoint, we can't afford to do that. So what I did was printed out all the pages and spread them out literally in my office floor. Like this whole space had pages on it, and I'm grouping things together, rearranging scenes based on some of the notes that he gave, and was able to restructure the story in a way that became far more compelling. He was absolutely right. And I only had to ditch 1 page. And upon sending it back to him and getting his feedback, he's like, this is a whole new story. Like, I want to read this story now. And I'm like, well, woo, it's actually the same story. But that was one of those things where, you have to realize that just because you did it doesn't make it right. That's a hard one for some folks. If you're award winning, accoladed up, just because you did it does not mean it's the right way for it to go. So that was a great lesson for me, and I was so glad to be open and receptive to it.
No, Vic, I'll say that, when you told me that you had to kind of not go back to the drawing board, but you were making changes, and I felt honored when you compared it to the work we did with Vigil.
100%. Yeah.
A lot, definitely.
Yeah, because I saw what you guys did, and you were the inspiration for how I was going to solve this problem of needing to change it, but not being able to afford to redo everything.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you can, just do that with letters and maybe moving the order of the pages around and making sure that flow is better. Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned LaShawn is with us. So LaShawn is one of the EICs under Short Fuse Media Group. She's currently editing Emerald Quest, and she is the creator of Beautiful Soldiers, which I know is the much anticipated book. We're still waiting. Hopefully we'll see that relatively soon. That book looks amazing. She is also the editor over Daniel Calvin's
American Dreams.
There we go. Thank you. And also owner of the new Comics and Geeks at Beverage Lounge in Montgomery, Alabama. Did I miss anything there?
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late. Like, I had the time mixed up. I thought it was 4:15 my time, but my ass ain't tell me that it was 4:15 his time.
Yeah, it's your fault.
I'll take my clap back.
Mike thinks that everybody lives in Eastern Standard Time. So, okay.
Right.
All right, so
Danny, tell Mike I blame his ass. Tell him.
Understood. All
I'm
right.
taking half my clap back.
All right, moving on to our next question. Sean, we'll start with you on this one. So, earlier today, Mike mentioned that we have 16 titles under FSK. We've got 9 new titles in production. I know from my perspective, I've got books with Post-it notes, making sure that we're being respectful to our own continuity. So what has your experience been like in producing multi-issue stories? Is it easier to release in issue form? LaShawn, I know you're going with a graphic novel for Beautiful Soldiers. What's your experience been like, and how do you prefer to do that writing? So we'll start with you, LaShawn.
Okay, that's a good question. So basically, when I first started Beautiful Soldiers, it was a comic. But over the years, the indie life can be tough, financing everything yourself. So right when I got ready to finish my first chapter and I was ready finally to release it after 5, 6, 7 years, Matt called me and we were talking. And yes, Sean, I blame you too. Sean was like, well, you done built up all this hype, on your book, and you done took all this time. You can't release no floppy book. And I said, oh, hell. So, but it was one of the best advice he gave me, because when I made it become a graphic novel, I was able to put so much story development and character development in my book and make it be the presentation that I wanted it to be, that I probably wouldn't have gotten if I did it as a comic.
Okay. Great. So Victor,
So if I can say, well, the differences though that I have noticed though, for me the biggest thing is the money wise. I was already at the top point when it was a comic, so you can just imagine what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely. So LaShawn, on the flip side, being the editor for the ongoing series American Dreams, what's that experience like? Kind of coming into where we've already got several issues published, and now you're helping to work with the new issues as they're in development.
Well, coming in, because Daniel was already doing so well on his book before I even joined, but now that I am his editor, I see things that he don't see, because I critique a little bit more than he would, and he has really one thing that I see that he shines light in is fight scenes. Like Daniel is such a good. It's hard to write a good fight scene, and I don't see a lot of writers be able to pull that off, very easily, because it's not something easy. It ain't like you doing a movie. You gotta do still page fights, and he shines on that perfectly. And I very rarely have to ask him to change any of that. But one of the things that I saw a problem with is the diversity in his book. And I was watching you guys when I was on the way here, and going back to what Daniel said about when I told him about going into his second arc, I'm like, well, we in the middle of a revolution right now. So I think you need to, jump on this. You call Liberty, the main character, American Dreams. And we've always seen, typically they represent America as a white man. I said, okay, well, we in a revolution now, so you're gonna have to capitalize on this and change some stuff up. I said some other words, but I'm trying to make it. Yeah.
Thanks, LaShawn. And I think it would be fair to transition Daniel over to you and follow up with that. Your experience. I know again you've got 3 issues. What's it been like now working on the following issues? I know you said you've made some changes. You took your second act and you're pushing that back to the third to bring in some of that diversity.
Well, second arc. Second arc, because we're already too deep into the first arc to do it. Right. Do that to really put him in. But yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like, you're right. This is New York City, 1900. You need this diversity in general, because and also Lower East Side. You're right next to Chinatown. So where's the Asian character?
Also, Daniel, is well that we both can agree on is that your book is a time period. So, I think seeing the story perspective of seeing some minority superheroes or characters in your book during that time would be really nice to read as well. So that's another conversation we talked about.
Yep, and the other issue, because again, it's a period piece, I have to go, wait, would these people be here or there in 1900? Like, where exactly would they roughly be? I mean, I can fudge it a little bit for historical figures, but, like, I can't say, like, a character who's going to appear in issue 5, I'm not saying who yet, I had to figure out where he was, because I thought, oh, he's going to be here. No, wait, he's not there, he would be here. If I'm like, no, he would be here because of something he was doing for here. And I can't say who yet, but it's one of those things where I have to say, oh my God, where are these people supposed to be in 1900 versus 1901 or 1899?
Right.
And then another question you also have to ask yourself is, if you were living back in that day and you are, and you're not a minority and you see an Asian character, an Asian superhero saving somebody, or you see a black person saving somebody, and you're white, how would you react to that? How would you feel during that time period seeing something like that? And that's the stuff that I told Daniel that he's going to have to show. Like, are they going to be happy that they just got saved by a black guy, or are they going to be like, no, whatever?
And there are plans to address that when we finally get to that issue. Once this arc is like, that's going to be the first issue of our arc 2.
Right.
Because we're right now really rocking in towards the end of the first arc of arc 5, with issue 5. Ugh. Too many arcs, too many issues. History, Daniel.
All right, so moving over to Victor, I know that you're building out, your own universe, 10 years under Vantage in-house productions. Got your fingerprints all over what we're doing over here at FSKDAY, the first story arc. What's it like for you, being flexible with whether it's an 8-page story, a full traditional 22 pages of a comic, or kind of a maxi series? What do you prefer? Writing in single issues, coming back through and writing the whole story up front?
I think whatever, like the way the inspiration kind of rides is the smartest way to answer that. Being versatile to be able to jump in on however you need to tell a story is important, but how you utilize those skills is everything. So obviously with the Samaritan, Origins Unknown, Wonder Care, I'm specializing in 8-page stories. With The Trouble with Love, it's longer, and as you said, that's how I started writing at Freestyle, was longer format stories. So I'm versatile in all of it, and how you can really kind of play it out is what the plan is for the second issue of Zero Vent. I won't say anything else because I don't know if I'm supposed to or not, but utilizing some of the short story telling skills that I have as how I approach that second issue. So I can't say that there's a preference, just you got to have that versatility so that you can do some interesting things that make things fun for the readers no matter what.
Right, absolutely. I can speak to that on the FSK side. Stepping into Heroes International, finishing up a 3-part story arc. We've already got that first issue. To knowing that we've got 100 issues plotted with Hotshot in all of our titles, so we've got a lot of different ways that we're approaching it. Robert, same question to you.
So I'm trying to think. I'm kind of piggybacking off of Victor, but what I'm finding is that the stories that I'm currently telling are normally for like 6-issue arcs, and because as an indie creator, sometimes you're surprised if you get past 1 issue. So I learned not to get my hopes up too high. I was very pessimistic at the beginning, and that's gotten better as I've gotten kind of deeper into the game. But strangely enough, there's a story next year that I've started putting pen to paper, which is like a huge space opera, and this is not going to be contained to just 6 issues. So that I think has forced me to, get out of my pessimism or whatever, and just try to, grow broader when it comes to plotting out these stories. So that's but yeah, that's normally like 6 issues will be it. We'll see how the trade hits, and Just keep taking notes. I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to be more optimistic, but it's I've been kind of burnt, the past few years. Let's just leave it at that.
All right. So, Greg, with us, Sonic, we have had issue 0. We've got issue 1 right now. I'm still on Kickstarter for today. Do you have an issue 2 plotted out? Where are we taking that story, and kind of what's your overall approach?
Oh yeah, for Sonica, I have like the first arc is kind of what Robert said, 6 issues, but I have like 3 arcs ready to go. So it's kind of like, you're just taking that one in stride. I recently was asked to do this Nor is the New Black. It's a graphic novel with a bunch of different creators, and we're just doing like 6 pages there. So I created another story, and it was fun, and it was only 6 pages. So I'm like, but I basically created a new title that it's kind of like the introduction to, and I was thinking about actually doing that as like a webcomic. So I like what Victor said, like just being versatile. I think we're storytellers, and so we can tell it any way that it needs to be done. Mm-hmm. I got away from writing, like even with prose, like I really write short stories. I don't write a lot of the super long just because I'm lazy, maybe. I'm working on a movie script right now, and that's like, oh, it's so long. But yeah, just trying to figure, tell the story the way it needs to be told. So Tuskegee Airs is the same way. We have like arcs upon arcs that we're going to hopefully be able to release as we go. So anyway, I think I like to do floppies and do around 30 pages an issue, and then when you get like 3 of them, you can go ahead and bind it. So that's normally the strategy, is to get about 30 pages and move to the next episode.
Okay. All right. So, Ted, same question to you. I know that you've kind of built out, you've grown your own universe with your characters. So what is your experience? Do you prefer doing those single issues? Do you write out everything up front and then start releasing them?
We do like, I'm a huge fan of Milo Miller also, who, started this with me. We love Bronze Age Marvel. Like that's kind of what we wanted to recreate, sort of a modern take on that. So it was very, awesome, episodic kind of short stories with these covers that have the story on the cover. I love that kind of a thing. So we like making the episodes, but we do think about them in terms of like 5-issue arcs that we can then, sell. We do a Kickstarter for the trade. And in terms of the overall thing, I feel like the analogy I like is that it's like a cross-country trip that you're taking your car across the country. Yeah, redundant there. And but you're not taking any highways. Okay, so you're taking all these little cities, these little villages, and if something looks cool along the way, we're going to stop and we're going to explore. We're going to check out, the diners. We're going to check into the motel. And that's really how like our second series, Tap Dance Killer, came about. It was like we had this arc that was going forward with Apama, but then all of a sudden I was working on a documentary about a theater troupe in Cleveland. And I just said to Milo, wouldn't it be funny if our superhero just got so burned out because Apama, kind of everything goes wrong for him? What if he just gets burned out, wants to join a theater troupe? Somebody flirts with him and tells him to audition. And that just spun all these crazy ideas. And it's one of the stories I'm most proud of. And then the Tap Dance Killer, she was more popular than Apama. And it was very clear at New York Comic Con, people just kept asking about this character, and it was like, I decided then that I'm going to try to spin her off and see how that goes. And I'm so glad, Apama still continues forward, but now I've got this other Tap Dance Killer series. And then Punchline, he was originally several years ago, I thought, man, a heavyweight boxer who becomes a super powered murderous clown named Punchline. This would be a perfect villain for Apama. But it was one of those ideas that, as I mentioned earlier, it was just always sort of sitting there. And then when Tap Dance Killer got her own series, I'm like, oh, this is the perfect place to introduce that guy, because of the technology of the people around her. They can do this experiment on this boxer and he becomes this character. now in Punchline, he is going to battle Apama. So I didn't have any of that planned going back, but yet I still know where I want all this to end up. How long it takes to get there, who knows?
Right. Great. Well, guys, we are out of time, actually, and I want to thank all of you for joining us. Could ask more questions, even than what I have on the page. We're going to please make sure that you drop your links and social media contact information in the chat. I know, Ted, you've got a Kickstarter you just launched. Greg, you're on your last day of your Kickstarter. So please make sure you get that link in there for us so we can share that with our audience. I want to thank everyone for being on here with us. Mike, did you have anything for closing out as well?
Y'all the best, man. Y'all the best. Fan of all your work. Love all y'all stuff. I've either copped it or I've donated to a Kickstarter or I've worked on stuff with y'all. I just think y'all all super dope. And thank you so much for coming out here to support Freestyle Comics. And to our audience, go get their stuff. Cop now. Run them ducats.
That was so thug for no reason.
All right, guys, thank you again. Please, stay tuned and watch the rest of the shows. And we're going to be moving on to our next panel here really soon.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
See you guys.
Awesome. All right, so what we got going on right now is we're going to change panel rooms again. We're coming up on the 4-hour recording limit on StreamYard. So I want to make sure we don't miss anything. And our next panel is going to be like 45 minutes. So what we're going to do is, we're going to talk a little bit more. I'm going to kill a little bit of time here. Oh, well, not that much time. Let me see. J-Man's doing an FSK chant that he told us he was going to do. That's what's up. Yeah. Keep it up. All right, so we got our next panel that's coming up, and it is, what's that? We just did Making a Story Flow. We did VIPs of Self-Publishing. We're doing VIPs of Self-Publishing next. All right. Awesome. This is going to be a great panel. Victor Danger's going to come back to host this one and whatnot. I'm going to close out with, let's see here. Let me grab that. All right, there we go. All right, I sent the new links to everybody. We got a couple minutes. Look.
Is that the new one?
What?
Are you already in the new one?
I'm not in the new one. I just posted it.
Okay.
All right, so I want you guys to go buy comic books. We're also looking for you guys to do donations. You can donate at the little ticker at the bottom right there that's the PayPal, that's the Cash App, that's the Venmo. We want $1. That's it. You can send more if you want. I'm not going to turn away more money. But we're at the end of the stream, we're just asking for $1 at the bare minimum. We have comics for sale. We've been putting the links into the comments so you guys can go there. We've got exclusive t-shirts for sale today. We're putting those in the links. We got exclusive prints today that we're selling $10 a print. There's the Hot Shot one. Here's the Vigilance one. And Veronica's almost done with the Venomized Hot Shot one that I'll be posting as soon as she gets finished, and we'll make that one available today as well. But, all right, everybody, so this is what we're going to do. Don't leave your computer, iPad, phone area. Stay right where you are. I'm going to close this room, and I'm going to bring the room back up. The link is already on the Facebook page. It's already on Twitch. It's already on YouTube. It's already there, okay? But I want to make sure we get all the awesomeness recorded. Let me see here. And Ted got his Kickstarter in there. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Let me get it in here real quick as a closeout. There we go. And, all right, so I'll see y'all in a little bit. We're about to get it popping again. Because that's what we do. That's what we're doing all day today. Popping.